Hello and thanks for watching my video. Today is another in the series that I'm looking at PvE builds for Guild Wars 2, and today we're going to be looking at the Guardian and particularly the Dragon Hunter. Now this is a build that I actually completed my first raid on. I'm going through the different classes just to experience how it is in raids, and so this is my Guardian. I have properly outfitted him virtually. This is the gear he's running. He's got power, precision, ferocity, and generally he'll be using this the hammer, with these particular stats: power, precision, ferocity, sigil of accuracy, sigil of force, and again generally berserker trinkets. So you can see here the berserker rings. We obviously have a berserker back piece. Trying to go for assassin's accessories, I do have two trinkets that aren't quite maximized. So just in case you're wondering why I have slightly different stats, these two here are in working progress, but they're maximum power pretty much. So this is the Guardian. The traits that we run Zeal, Honor, and Dragon Hunter. Now, some of you may be asking me why I run these for this particular build. Well, again, if you want to check out this build, I suggest you go to metabattle.com because there are, this is a slight variation on some of this, but it's great explanation, and I'm hoping to actually show you why. Now here we have Zeal. Now we have this create a symbol of wrath when you are struck below 50%, and this is pretty impressive. And this is one of the main reasons this build is very, very effective. It's symbols, and we're going to be looking at that, particularly with the hammer skill and the auto attack. But we're going to look at our traits and see why. Now, we increase damage against burning foes. Well, do we do anything that gives burning? Well, not generally here. But what you'll probably be having is you will be having someone in your party. Generally, it will be an elementalist that will be inflicting burning. There's many other sort of differences. Engineers can cause burning, for example. Warriors can cause burning. So you should generally have a foe that's burning. Symbols apply vulnerability to foes. So again, you'll notice that if we actually look at, for example, easy thing to do is just switch to Greatsword. We actually have this symbol here, and you can see that it puts vulnerability. And you also notice that the duration and the size of it is also different. But we're going to show you the traits that influence that in a little while. Now, you can change this stat because I just have the Greatsword. Generally, I'll swap in if we're running a little bit low on CC just to use the skill 5 as a little pull. Again, you've also got a blind, and if you want to maximize the symbols, swapping into your Greatsword to put this symbol down, you can use the Whirling Wrath. Generally, though, it's just best to stick in hammer. I wouldn't recommend swapping out of hammer at all. It's up to you. Generally, that's the reason I have this trait. The other trait, immobilizing or blinding a foe, also applies vulnerability. Well, I'm going to have a lot of vulnerability on this foe, so that's not really too worth it. You could take condition damage based on your power, but again, you're doing very little condition damage. There's very little traits that you'll be doing, skills that you'll be using that give condition damage. But this is the reason why this build works so well. Symbolic Avenger. Now, when this first trait was changed a while ago, there was a major bug in that everybody that put symbols down, it would stack the damage increase. So if you had 10 Guardians, you'd be doing 100% more damage. And this meant that Tequatl was down so quickly. It was kind of funny, really. But this Symbolic Avenger means that you do 10% more damage standing in your symbols. Now, this is very good against static foes such as Sabatha. Against a Veiled Guardian, you can get away with it. It's a little bit tricky, but you are putting a lot of symbols down. And against Gorseville, again, you can do a lot of damage because Gorseville generally is pretty static. But this particular trait is fundamental to the build. We come on to Honor, and then we look at gain Vigor when you deliver a critical hit. We activate a Shield of Absorption when you begin reviving an ally. Very, very useful because it gives you protection, regen, and Aegis, and you get that increased revive speed. Really helps get your allies up in a clutch moment. The end of your dodge roll heals allies. You can heal 5 of your squad members with this healing, or if you're in a dungeon, 5 party members. Aegis heals when it blocks an attack. So again, if you're reviving someone, you'll gain Aegis, and then you'll block, and you'll get some healing. And, you're not taking a staff, and, you could take might, empowering might. However, generally, you should have maximum amount of might anyway. Purity of body, so your virtue of resolve passive effect also regenerates endurance. Well, that would be the virtue of resolve. So, sorry, it's the virtue of resolve. Well, the problem is we don't have any virtue. Well, the virtue is here, so the wings of resolve, and we're going to get regeneration health there. But here we go, Writ of Persistence. Symbols last longer, are larger, and heal allies. So we get a 2-second increase in our symbols, as demonstrated by the blue writing on this. So not only do our symbols that we put down give more damage, they heal, they inflict vulnerability, they're longer, and they are bigger. So this means that, for example, if I show you quickly just with the symbol here, you can see that it is massively bigger compared to a symbol that's usually a little bit smaller. And if we take the trait off, for example, so you can see here, we'll just put this one on here. Let's actually see the difference when the Greatsword skill finishes recharging. And you'll notice immediately it's a lot smaller, so the other ring was out there, and it's done. So it's very, very short, and that's one of the reasons why this trait is very, very effective. And not only that, the healing that you're going to be doing is pretty impressive. Like, it's just going to mean that you keep healing your allies that little small amount, making sure that your druid's sort of task is a lot less. Then we come on to Dragon Hunter, and this is kind of the basics. You've obviously trap daze enemies when activating and have reduced recharge time. Again, if you're trying to break the Defiance bar, using these skills can actually remove some of that. And not only that, the Banish is very, very good at removing a lot of the Defiance bar. We have blocking an attack, causes Justice to reach its maximum charge, but you know we don't have too many blocks here. Deal with extra damage to crippled enemies, and Justice's passive effect cripples enemies. So again, you have this Spear of Justice, but these traps here, they are, if you see, they do daze, which means obviously they're going to be inflicting that, removing that Defiance bar, but you've got the trap here, which cripples a foe for 6 seconds. And so when they're crippled, you're going to be doing an extra 10% damage. And not only that, if they're standing in a symbol, you'll be doing an extra 10% damage. You'll be doing 20% damage to a crippled foe standing in your circle. I mean, this is a huge amount. You'll do that bonus damage, so if you're less than 7%, so you're doing an extra 7% damage. I mean, this is just incredible. And then striking an enemy tethered by your Spear of Justice causes vulnerability and increases damage dealt. So with our bonus modifiers, you know, compared to what we're just doing normally, we would get an extra 10% damage if we hit a foe targeted by our Spear of Justice. We're going to take 10% damage to a crippled foe. And we get 10% damage to someone standing in our symbols. So let's actually check this out and see this in our combat log. I'm going to maximize the combat log so you can actually see some of this. So let us auto attack. Let's see what we do. You know, I'm not having anything on us, no boons or anything like that. Let's see what we do. So you'll see here we're just auto attacking, and we do actually cause burning because of the Spear of Justice passive effect. But you'll notice now as we're actually moving through that we're using the symbols, we're actually doing a bit more damage here. So we can see here that when we're actually targeting a foe that's in our symbol, they're doing more damage. Well, let's actually use these traps here. So let's trap, and then what we're going to do, we're also going to use the F1 skill, just once. So here we go, we're going to put the traps down, and then we're going to use the F1. So let's see what we do now. Well, suddenly, look, our attacks are going up a little bit more. We're doing a bit more damage, and here we go. Look at our symbols lasting plenty of time. Well, let's give us a bit of quickness, and now we're going to attack even quicker. Again, I'm just auto-attacking, not too hard. And, you know, our DPS, 4,700. Well, that's not great, is it? Compared to, say, a thief or something. Well, again, you know, this is just no boons, you know, no might, no fury. So this is just a standard auto-attack. I'm not even pressing any buttons here, and I'm just letting myself auto-attack. So let's put, again, the traps, and we'll do the F1 skill. And so, here we go. And there we go. So, again, we're doing more damage, 10% more damage because they're tethered to us. And we're doing more damage because they were crippled. And so this is great. I mean, this is just a maximum stacks. This is one character doing 25 stacks of vulnerability. Very, very easy to do. But that's what I'm going to be talking about. So let's actually change that. You know, that golem's very easy to do. You know, we're getting 4,700. That's not great, is it? So let's actually let's adjust the enemy golem. We'll kill the golem. And let's resummon a golem. So again, we'll take the million health pool, and let's adjust ourselves. Let's add boons. Okay, let's give might, fury. So we get might, full stack of might, Let's give us some Fury, and we won't bother with Retaliation. We're not going to bother with Quickness, because we can give that to ourselves. So let's actually give us profession-specific enhancements. So we're going to take everything. So we're going to get all the, spirits, the warriors, banners, and ferocity from the Revenant. So this is what's going to be maxed out. This is like the maximum DPS we can do. So again, let's auto attack. So you can see now straight away we're doing hell of a lot more damage, and then you'll see we're going to do more damage while he's in the symbol. And then when you do this, you can see here this is the symbol of protection. It's the auto attack. So you get bash, bash, and then this symbol of protection. That's what's massive, and you can see why we get 5 seconds of protection. That is a huge amount. And it's this that really is going to make you an important player for your raid, because you're giving a protection to your entire squad just by doing this auto attack. So by giving everybody protection, you can really help your team survive. And let's boost this up, okay? Because I've not been doing anything here. Let's give us everything. So here we go. Now look at us go. Whoa! Look at them really pumping out the damage here. And you can see here just auto attacking. So our DPS is doing all right, 12,838. What about anything else that we can use? Well, what other skills can we possibly do? Should we use skill 2? Should we use skill 3? Well, skill 3, it's just a wave. It's just a small thing. Let's have a look. 3, not much. 2. What about skill 2? Okay, 1300. But the problem is you're not keeping up the protection with this auto attack. And that's where you want to be wary of. You're not going to do as much DPS as a thief, but you're providing a hell of a lot of support with vigor, with protection, with Aegis, using these. I mean, look at the traps. The traps will get, if you notice here, the test of faith. It says boon on trap trigger. So not only will you be giving protection with this auto attack, you're also going to be giving protection with this symbol. You'll be giving fury with this trap, and you'll be giving swiftness with this trap, rather than, I said symbol, it's actually a trap. And you'll give quickness and fury with Feel My Wrath. So again, let's actually summon an enemy golem, and we're going to be doing a weak enemy again. Let's go in and then properly see what we can do. So we're going to go auto attack, and we'll pop up these, just give you the skills there. The traits, again, I haven't really covered the traits because they're pretty simple. You just use the Signet of Resolve because it cures a condition every 10 seconds. Gives you a big heal as well. And then it's 3 traps, Chest of Faith, Procession of Blades, Light's Judgment, and Feel My Wrath as the elite skill. Again, we're going to do the traps, use the F1 skill, and you want to keep doing this auto attack. Now the third one is, if you notice this animation, you do 2 quick ones, and it's a fairly long duration for the final one. Now it's very easy if you're dodging, for example, to miss that final one, and that's pretty crucial because you can really mess up your build and your rotation if you actually interrupt that. And I'll give you an example. So you can see here 1. So you can see that long duration, 1, 2, and then okay. So I interrupted that final one, and then you don't actually get to finish that off, and that chain has to restart. So that's really something you want to pay attention to, because if you miss that auto attack, that final auto attack, you're going to screw up your rotations. It's going to mean your party members won't have this upkeep of protection, and you're not going to be doing as much damage. So there you go. I'm doing 14,500 DPS in 69 seconds. So, alright, you can compare that to my Thief build. I'm not doing as much damage, but again, remember, this is a lot as well about this protection, because you really will notice your team stays a hell of a lot more alive with this protection than you will without doing this. So again, not only are you providing that DPS support, this is impressive DPS, okay? You're doing a hell of a lot, but you're also giving the squad that support that you really is fundamental. And you can notice a difference when you don't have a Dragon Hunter in your team compared to when you do. If you look at things like Sabbather can get pretty intense. Having this protection uptime will really benefit the rest of your team. So this is the Guardian build. Again, you noticed I didn't even swap in to the Great Sword. So let's try and see what we can do. Can we actually do any more DPS with some of these rotations? Let's just see what we can do. In case you're wondering, well, why don't I try a different setup? Why don't I try and go in with a Great Sword? Well, let's actually have a look. Let's go in and let's put a Great Sword down, and we'll do a whirling. You can see here the amount of damage we're doing. Let's swap into auto attack, and again, that's the reason why you're going to be losing that auto attack skill, and we use the F1 to do more damage. So there we go. We're going to be auto attacking again. And then we'll swap into Greatsword. Let's put the symbol down, do more damage. And you can see here, we're doing alright amount of damage. Let's do the auto attacks, doing decent amount with Greatsword. Again, you're healing yourself with Greatsword. And remember, stay tethered. You keep that F1. You don't have to press it twice. Whoops, I didn't mean to do banish. There we go. So just auto attack and make sure that final chain hits. Otherwise, you don't want to interrupt because you're really going to lose your DPS. Again, just auto attacking. You use Whirl of Procession of Blades. Keep the F1 going. We're going to swap into Greatsword and use the symbol again because we're doing more damage to enemies in our symbols. Remember, this symbol is going to give you vulnerability damage. It's going to do a lot. Again, we keep the traps going as soon as we can and use the F1 skill to properly give them more damage. So, and we're going to go back into auto attack chain again, but look at this. There's very little protection that we've got upkeep. There we go. Now we've got the upkeep going. But, you know, what's the DPS like? Let's see what we're going to get compared to just with the... So 1300, 884. Again, not as much. And that's just by swapping skills. And that's why you're just best off just auto-attacking with the hammer. Because of the symbol of protection. It is a fundamental thing that's really going to benefit you. And again, if you're thinking, well, I like just going in... I like my greatsword. I like playing with a greatsword. It's not the optimum thing to do at the moment. You're going to help your team by having this symbol of protection and by just casting these traps, giving your the elite skill. You're really going to help out your team. So I hope this has been useful for you. I hope you can actually realize just what the benefits are with dose rotation. And again, you know, Zealot's Embrace, 2-second immobilize. You can use that for some of the CC. No point even bother doing Ring of Warding. It's ineffective. Because there are no enemies, you know, Gorsevul, the Veil Guardian, the Sabbather, or not Sabbather, but some of the minion people that she spawns. Not only that, but Slothazar and also Matthias, in the Matthias fight, all of those fights, every time you need to remove some of the Defiance bar, they are all static. And so Ring of Warding will be ineffective. So do not use this skill. Skill 2, again, it's a skill that will do a lot of damage, and you'll think, oh, yeah, let's use this skill. Well, let's just try that in action, you know, let's notice the difference. But the problem is, again, you are interrupting this auto attack. So again, let's actually summon a golem, and let's go in and attack. And what we're going to do, I'm going to use the skill 2 as well. So here we go, we're going to use the F1 skill, and let's use the traps, and give us our elite skill, and let's auto attack. Okay, so then we've got the chain, then we'll do the F2 skill. Well, look at that, I did 1400 damage. So let's see what we can do with the auto attack. We'll bring that in. So every time we got that up, I'm going to use the skill 2 and make sure I've got the... I've interrupted the chain there. But there we go. Don't want to interrupt that chain. And then we'll use the skill 2 and then we'll auto attack. So this is what we're just going to do. So skill 2 and then again you're interrupting the chain. So it's very difficult to time that right. Make sure the chain doesn't get interrupted. Again, like I just did. And that's the problem you've got with this. You must make sure the auto attack isn't interrupted. Make sure all the traps and elite skills are activated. And then we're going to use the bam. So it'll be interesting to see the DPS. Again, 13,428. You know, you're losing that DPS because you're not auto attacking. And it's mean that the protection uptime isn't going to be as much. And that's what's going to help, you know, it's going to not benefit your party as much. So again, there's the auto attack, get those traps down, and then go with the F2, and then let's get back in the auto attacking, and let's just check out our DPS. So again, you know, we'll see if it's as much as it was before. We get the traps down, probably because of some of my bad rotations. 1300. So using that skill 2 is not effective because you're reducing the amount of time you're spending using these skills. Because if you look at the symbol damage, if you look at these where the writing of symbol of protection. Smash a Mystic symbol onto the ground that gives protection to you and your allies. So you're doing 1500 damage. Not only that, your symbol will be doing 2,500 damage times 3. You're going to get protection for 1.5 seconds times 5. And so that's going to reduce the damage dealt to you. Just think about for example, on the Veil Guardian, all those Red Seekers. This is really going to reduce the damage that they do. You're going to inflict vulnerability. And it's a 4-second duration of the symbol. And so if you look at the time it takes to cast this, you're talking a generally 2 to 3 second time to actually do all of this. Well, 1.25 second, add a half second, so that's 2.25 seconds, plus the time that you're obviously going to activate the traps for, and that F1 skill. you're going to have a lot of upkeep of this symbol of protection, and that's why this whole build is built around you making sure that you're giving your team protection and that you're doing damage with this symbol of protection. So I'm hoping this explanation's kind of made sense to you and shown you that even though it's more fun, you may enjoy just, if you like rotating between the skills, go for Elementalist. But if you like maximizing the rotation, this is a very easy build to do. Just go in with the auto attack. And again, if you want to make sure you're healing, you can dodge and then, keep this auto attack going. And then you dodge again. But for example, let's show you just one final time with the golem. And what I'm going to show you, imagine if you're fighting Sabbather, for example, and you've got the flame wall going. Well, it's very easy just to keep auto-attacking. You can see here, I'm just auto-attacking, and again, I'll put the traps down, and then suddenly there's a flame wall, and oh, we've got to run, we've got to run, we've got to run. But we're keeping the symbols going. Again, we've got to put the quickness going, and auto-attack, make sure we've got the F1, and then the flame wall's coming up. Oh, okay, so we've got a Veil Guardian we need to dodge. Okay, dodge, and then you come back in again. So we actually have a very increased endurance, so we'll be able to dodge a little bit more. But again, try not to dodge when you're doing that final auto attack. Then you'd have to dodge. So you're keeping that upkeep going, keeping that protection going, and you're really keeping this DPS going as much as possible. And again, so you may dodge. You need to dodge every so often. And what happens every time you dodge, you're going to be healing your team. Again, look at that, 1400 DPS, and I'm just running around. Again. Making sure with these rotations that I'm doing as much damage as possible. Keep them tethered, and then you can do a bit more damage. Again, we're in range, so we're not, at range you'll be doing a little bit more. Okay, so then suddenly we need to break the Defiance bar, so we use the skill 4. There we go, that smash, and then we have to use skill 3 because of the immobilize. Alright, so it took a little bit reduction in DPS, but we couldn't damage them anyway. So that's why it dropped below 14,000. So there you go, guys. This is the Dragon Hunter build. Very, very useful for raids. Great for support play because you can properly give your allies protection, inflict that vulnerability, get rid of that Defiance bar, and generally this is a build that is very, very useful in PvE right now. Thanks for watching. It'd be great to hear any comments from you, and I'll see you on the next one.